Your cat doesn't bring you a half-dead rodent because it understands affection in human terms. It brings it because, in its behavioral logic, you appear to be something closer to a dependent, an oversized, clumsy member of its social environment who consistently fails at the most basic survival task, hunting. To a cat, you are not incompetent in an emotional sense. You are simply inefficient. A large, hairless primate moving through a world it does not fully control. You lack whiskers to read movement in darkness. You cannot rotate your ears to track faint shifts in the environment. Your body is not built for silent precision. You rely on tools, planning, and cooperation to achieve what a cat accomplishes alone in seconds. Seen through feline perception, you are not a predator in the classical sense. You're something more unusual, a powerful creature that behaves like it has forgotten how survival works. And this is where the story begins. Not in modern homes, but in the deep past, when survival itself was unstable. 10,000 years ago, during the late Pleistocene and early Holocene transition, humans lived at the edge of ecological uncertainty. They were capable of extraordinary coordination in groups, able to track large game across vast distances. But individually, they were fragile. A single injury could collapse a food cycle. A shift in migration patterns could turn a successful season into starvation. Survival depended on collective success, not individual dominance. At the same time, another lineage was moving through the same landscapes. The African wildcat, Felis lybica, solitary, silent, and metabolically efficient. It did not rely on groups. It did not depend on shared planning. It survived through precision, patience, and energy control. And unlike many wild predators, it did not avoid human presence entirely. Archaeological patterns suggest something subtle. These cats began to move closer to early settlements, not because they were invited, but because the environment itself was changing. Grain stores attracted rodents. Rodents attracted predators. And predators, in turn, began to observe humans as part of a newly forming ecological structure. From a distance, early human camps would have appeared chaotic to a hyper-efficient hunter. Firelight flickering unpredictably, loud vocalizations, repeated failure in small-scale hunting attempts, constant movement without clear pattern. To a wildcat, this was not civilization. It was instability surrounded by opportunity. And over time, a quiet adaptation began. Not domestication, observation. The botched hunter phenomenon, maternal hyperextension across species. The traditional explanation of cats being domesticated for pest control is incomplete. It assumes intention where there was likely gradual alignment. Cats are not naturally social in the way dogs are. They do not organize themselves around hierarchy or obedience, but they are not purely solitary either. In environments where resources are stable, related female cats form loose, cooperative networks. They share space, tolerate overlap, and even participate in shared care of young. This flexibility is important because it means the feline brain already contains a latent capacity for recognizing non-threat social structures. When early cats encountered human camps, they were not encountering a foreign species in a vacuum. They were encountering a noisy, oversized, highly unpredictable version of something closer to a colony. And within that interpretation, humans fit poorly, but not entirely outside the social map. What likely emerged was a misclassification. Humans were not seen as prey, nor as competitors, but as unusually clumsy, non-threatening members of the same environmental system. This is where a deeper instinct becomes relevant. Mother cats raise kittens by bringing them prey, not as nourishment alone, but as training material. This is a structured behavioral sequence. Dead prey first, then injured prey, then live prey, and finally independent hunting. When a cat brings prey to a human, it is not following a symbolic logic. It is following a developmental one. In its internal model, the human does not yet demonstrate hunting competence. So the behavior does not stop. It repeats, not as communication, but as correction. The human becomes, in effect, a persistent juvenile in need of instruction. And human responses, attention, movement, vocal reaction, reinforce the cycle in ways the cat can register, even if it does not understand the meaning behind them. A loop forms, stable, simple, and persistent. If your cat has ever left something at your feet that made no sense to you, it is worth remembering that in its world, that moment carries a very different meaning, one shaped by instincts far older than the idea of home. The neurological disconnect. Why hunger and hunting are separate emotions. To understand why this behavior persists, we have to look at how feline motivation is structured. In many predators, hunger and hunting are tightly linked. One triggers the other. When the body is full, the hunting drive weakens. In cats, these systems are partially separated. The hunting response is not primarily regulated by internal energy levels. It is triggered externally. Movement, irregular motion, small, fast changes in environment. These signals activate deep reward circuits in the brain, producing a dopamine response that reinforces the behavior itself. A cat can be completely full and still enter a full predatory sequence within seconds of detecting movement. This separation is not a flaw. It is an adaptation. In environments where prey is unpredictable and fast, waiting for hunger would reduce survival efficiency. The system therefore remains active even in abundance. When humans later created stable settlements, this system encountered a new condition: constant stimulation. Rodents around grain stores created an almost continuous hunting environment. Cats did not overhunt because of hunger. They hunted because the system kept activating. And because they could not consume everything they caught, surplus naturally emerged. That surplus had to be resolved, and the most stable point in their environment was the human settlement itself. What appears to us as bringing gifts is, from a neurological perspective, a redistribution of excess output from a constantly active predatory system. What looks like a simple household behavior may actually be the result of one of the most efficient hunting systems in the mammalian world, still running in the background of domestic life. The ancient pact: how predators became coexistent. Over time, something unusual happened. Humans did not fully domesticate cats, and cats did not fully remain wild. Instead, both adjusted to proximity. Humans tolerated cats near food storage because rodent control improved survival conditions. Cats tolerated humans because the environment became consistently productive. No formal agreement existed, but a stable ecological exchange formed. When your cat leaves something in front of you today, it is not reenacting affection in the human sense. It is continuing a behavioral lineage that predates civilization itself, a system built on observation, repetition, and survival efficiency. What began at the edges of Stone Age firelight has not disappeared. It has simply moved indoors. And in that continuity lies something unusual. Not obedience, not ownership, but an ongoing negotiation between two species that learned, without language or agreement, how to share the same world, quietly and permanently.